In this video, I want to cover a topic that I think brand new investors need to hear.
I started thinking about real estate around 2007. That's when I got my real estate license in California. And I knew I wanted to be in real estate somehow because I knew that's where money was.
Howdy, welcome back to One Rental at a Time. In this video, I want to cover a topic that I think brand new investors need to hear. And I'm here with
You see Frankini with Brick by Brick Wealth.
I didn't know my brain stopped on your last name. Hopefully they edit out the beginning of that. I was going to say Brick by Brick Wealth, but I know you actually have a name because people get confused when they call me Dion Talk too. I don't know if anybody knew this, but Talk is not my last name. So
Love it.
Casey and I both invested in real estate. Casey, you've done this primarily. I've heard you in a few videos talk about how you want to do this so you could be a stay-at-home mom with your kids and actually have that time with them. I talk to a lot of new investors, so that's why I want to have this subject where this is something I think they need to hear. When they hear someone like you have, at last count, I heard 7 properties. Your husband probably could retire soon with your cash flow. I retired last year. People think if I start investing now, I want that. And they don't realize the timeline, how long financial freedom can actually take. So can you walk us through when you decided to think, okay, I want to buy a rental, from the point where you made that decision until you purchased your first rental? What did that timeline look like?
So I started thinking about real estate around 2007. That's when I got my real estate license in California. And I knew I wanted to be in real estate somehow because I knew that's where money was. And I knew I could do that. And I loved houses. I always went to go look at the model homes and I would see every open house. I already loved houses as it was. So I got my real estate license and I helped real estate investors find flips. I was in California at the time. We didn't really have any money. So we weren't thinking, let's go buy a bunch of houses. You know, we were younger. It wasn't until I heard my friend Mikey tell me his grandma owned 10 rentals. And I was like, oh, you know, and I forgot, but she had made a lot of money owning rental properties. I didn't know a single soul who owned any rentals except for this lady who worked in my real estate office. And she had rented out her condo before she bought her house. So all these things are getting my wheels turning. And I'm like, okay, rental properties, need to learn more about that. And so I did, and I understood how to rehab houses. Like, okay, we can fix stuff up. So my husband, well, we were not married at the time. Were we married? No, I don't remember. Yes, we were married, barely married. So now we're in 2010, before we had our first kid in 2011, and we're out looking at properties in Southern California to make offers on. We were going to buy a rental. This is around in Fontana, California, Inland Empire, and there were houses going from anywhere 140,000 to like 175,000 that would cash flow. Now they're like $500,000. I looked recently, those same freaking addresses. Anyways, we must have made 40 offers, never pulled the trigger, and actually got something for a myriad of reasons. Usually, the real reason was I was just unsure. I was scared. A lot of unknowns, just like why most people don't take the first step and they wait a long time. So I didn't do it. So 2007, knew I wanted to get into real estate, got my license. 2008, 9, learning about rentals. 2010, made tons of offers, didn't get anything. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now we're in 2016. That was the first year that we bought our rentals. So in 2013, we moved to Memphis. I said, I want to buy real estate. Well, it probably was about maybe 2014. But we didn't have any money. So I had to save up a down payment all by myself with 2 little kids at home, a baby and a toddler. And I did that by creating some money on Etsy and selling things locally, like personalized handmade items. And it did take 2 years before we actually had the down payment funds to put down on our first rental we bought in 2016. So in my mind, 2007, 2008, we're going to do something. 2010, we tried. It wasn't until 6 years later that we actually bought our first property.
So to put a timestamp on that now, that investor that today is thinking, okay, I want to buy rentals. So they're on YouTube University. They're trying to take in content to figure out how to do this. If this was day one for you, you would be talking about 2029 being a year, maybe even later than that you acquire your first rental.
Yep.
For me, I got laid off from law enforcement beginning of 2009. had my second pension taken away, right? My first pension, I tried the Marine Corps, and after Desert Storm, they downsized, right? So that pension was taken away. 2008, law enforcement shrank because of the recession, and that pension was taken away. So it was around 2009 that I thought, I need to figure out how to build my own pension, and real estate was going to be it. 2010, I talked to a lender who said, you're teaching people how to drive trucks making $17 an hour. You have $89,000 in bad debt. You can't buy anything. And I get this from David Green. Whenever you hear somebody say no, always ask why. And in that conversation, the lender said, well, first off, your debt to income ratio is really bad. So unless you had rental income on your tax returns for 2 years, you're not going to qualify with your debt to income ratio. You'd have to make 2 or 3 times what you are. You'd have to get rid of the bad debt or have rental income on your tax returns. And then they said, well, you also just changed careers. You worked in law enforcement for 8 years, and now you're teaching people how to drive trucks. That's a new field. We can't even lend to you for 2 years. So what I did, like you, for 2 years, I saved. That was working overtime, playing online video games, and selling things on, I think it was eBay at the time, before the websites came out that would buy stuff, and developing a side hustle and saving for those 2 years. So those 2 years, first, it let me get rental income on my tax returns because I moved from my house into an apartment. Actually took my kids and we said, hey, we're going to move into an apartment, which is always a fun conversation with your family. We moved into the apartment and we rented the house out. So for those 2 years, I got rental income on my tax returns. 2 years of working in the new field, teaching people how to drive trucks, stabilized my income field for lenders requirements, and 2 years to save the closing costs, down payment, money for immediate repairs, and reserves, which sounds like a lot, but it was $28,000 in 2 years. So if you started today and your situation was anywhere close to mine, not making a lot, having some bad debt, even if you didn't know about it, 2026, would be when you buy your first rental. But there's so many new investors, and this is why I think they need to hear this, that hear of the stories of like Christian and Cody, multifamily strategies. I interviewed Cody before he was old enough to buy a beer. He had 30 rentals, and he said, I wish I'd started sooner. So when we hear stories of people who can do that, it is possible. Yeah. It gets really hard to put an actual timeline on. If you started now, most people will say, well, I can't buy a rental. Of course you can't. You haven't worked on your credit score. You haven't focused on saving, which is increasing your income, decreasing your expenses, and saving the difference. You haven't gone to see a lender to see what your options are, and you haven't taken the year or two it's going to take to get that down payment put aside for the first property, maybe even longer if you can't house hack. But if you can house hack, you can speed that up some. So I hope new investors understand that, and Zuber says this a lot, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a get wealthy for sure plan.
Yeah. I think one thing that, so we all are on social media now, right? That's part of our culture. And we see these 10-year-olds with 100 houses, right? I'm exaggerating, but we're like, I can't do that. And you just say, forget it. I'm out. Peace. That's not for me. So not everybody has this high energy, laser beam focus, undeniable, unshakable drive to succeed. Few people that have that. And it is those people that will just freaking kill it in life. For every one of us regular people, we see people like that and go, forget that. Like, I can't do that. I don't want to do all that work that's required to get that, 100 properties when I'm 20. Like, no. And we have to remember that there's still a path for us regular people out there. There's still a path. We can do it. Regular freaking people that have teachers, electricians, gosh, I have, not that all my students are regular people, but I feel, when you talk to people and you're like just like me. But there's just so many regular people that were born and raised. I have to get a 9-to-5 job. I'm going to do a pension, get into a job with a pension, or I'm going to save it and I'm going to work till I'm 60. All of us who were raised that way, we can still be those 18-year-olds with Lamborghinis, right? We don't have to do it that way. It's going to take us longer, and it's okay. Don't give up because we're not getting instant gratification. That's the thing. We want instant gratification, and if we can't do it right now with no money and no credit, forget it. Well, guess what? Fix your freaking credit, make some more freaking money, stop whining, put your ass to work. Get it done. You can do it. Everybody can do it, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It might take 2 years.
And that 2 years is to acquire the first rental. Here's what I'll wrap up with is the timeline for financial freedom. And I say this on my channel often, which is the average person can reach financial freedom and make work completely optional in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. So if you start right now, that means you're financially free in 2034. If you start thinking of that decade, in 2034, you'll probably be financially free. But if you think, I want it right now, I can't have it now, I don't have the right credit, I don't have enough money to put down, I'm just going to work and keep contributing to my retirement account, which is a great strategy. If you want to work until
Forever.
2060.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone out there that's listening, it is doable. It takes some time. And I think when it comes to real estate, the most important thing, right, here's the praise emoji. The most important thing to get right is to nail down your market, find a real estate market that is appreciating, where rents are going up, where it's desirable, and where in 10 years, your property will still be a good investment. Buy one of those. Okay, just start with one. We bought one every year. That's it. One every year. 1 year we didn't buy any, 1 year we bought two, that sort of deal. But on average, it was one a year. Everybody can do one a year. Save your pennies. Thank you guys so much for listening. Dion, did you have any last words?
No, I was just going to get your name right here on the outro and say, thanks for joining me and Casey from Brick by Brick Wealth, covering for Michael Zuber while he is off gallivanting.
Sayonara.